No, I got so tired earlier on because I met up with a friend of mine. He's got a little 7 month old, and so we went on a walk. And the walk, because I've just been doing a ton of walking over the last few days,
Yeah.
I was just too knackered to actually do anything else tonight. So
Yep.
what we had to do is because Sunderland play tomorrow and it's a lunchtime kickoff football match, so we've switched things where we're going to actually watch the football tomorrow instead. So
Right.
but yeah, the amount of walking I've done because I've just getting some new shoes and fancy me, these new shoes have got Bluetooth in them, so they actually track how you walk. So they're attached.
So please explain. They track how you walk.
Yeah, they're attached to an app. So like normal Bluetooth things, like earphones that I've got in, or something like that, or a watch. They track how you walk via an app itself, and you can see what your cadence is like. So your steps are like, how you walk, and how you run, and all that kind of stuff. And so
Okay.
since I got them a few days ago, I've just been constantly using them, and so we thought, you know what, sunny day in Sunderland, let's go for a walk. And I overestimated how far we were walking. So I got absolutely knackered by the time of it. So
Wow, Bluetooth shoes. Every day is a school
yes,
day. That's amazing.
yep. Bluetooth shoes. You'll have seen the self-tying shoelace ones because you can
Yeah.
get Nike makes self-tying shoelaces ones. I didn't know Bluetooth ones existed.
No.
The only reason why I got them, I didn't know they were Bluetooth. Literally, I only bought them because they were originally £140 and I paid £40 for them.
Okay.
And I just really liked the look of them. And I got them, and I saw a QR code on the box. Okay, fine, that might just lead to like a special thing that you normally sign you up to, like a newsletter or something like that.
Yeah.
And when I seen it, download the app, I went, what?
An app for
And
shoes.
then I looked through, and the shoes have got Bluetooth. Never heard of that before.
That's
So pretty much
insane.
your reaction is the exact reaction I get with everybody else when they find out the shoes actually have Bluetooth.
If you were a billionaire and somebody went, Steve, got an idea, I want you to invest, Bluetooth shoes, you'd be like, get out my house, get out my mansion, go away.
Exactly.
Do one.
Go there.
Jeeves, throw this ruffian out of my mansion.
Bluetooth shoes.
Bluetooth shoes, whatever it is next. I'm sure we'll find out in the next episode.
Yep. When I actually say, by the way, I've got this now. So this really unusual thing because I love my my nerdy tech. For example, I've got a Steam Deck, so a portable PC. I've got one of those, which I treated myself to a few months ago. I've got a USB mug warmer.
Yep.
So it's like a little halogen hob, but you stick your cup on and it keeps your drink hot.
Okay.
Even just water bottles, for example. My water bottle, this one, has got a magnetic lid. So the lid perfectly latches onto it. It's completely drip proof. So
Nice.
it will not
Yeah.
leak. And it keeps your drink cold for 24 hours.
Sweet. But is it Bluetooth?
No.
Wow, there you go.
Just the shoes.
So last century.
I know, just the shoes.
So we've got like a 2-half podcast to do. Which half do you want to do first? Do you want to do the stuff that you've watched, or do you want to do the alien stuff?
Let's do the stuff we've watched because I've just finished a film. As you were calling me, the credits were just rolling. So I've got another one. Not that I haven't got very many as it is.
Yeah.
So since we last did a podcast, I've seen 21 new films.
How many on for the year? I mean, we score differently, so it's like if I watch a film twice, it goes on my list twice. So that's
I only score films that were released the year that I watched them. So, for example, obviously my usual thing is when I come up with my top 5 or top 10, I'm probably going to be doing a top 10 this year. So it's films released between January 1st and up to the point where I have the cut-off part. So on my letterbox, I do one for every single year, and the only films that go on my letterbox are films that actually came out that year that I've watched them in. So every film on that one. So I've got 89 new films that I've watched this year that were only released in 2024.
So if you'd never seen The Wizard of Oz and you watched it this afternoon, it wouldn't go on a list?
No, because that list is specifically for me to actually create my best films of the year or worst films of the year list. That's the whole point I do the letterboxd.
And then obviously, spoilers, the best film of the year will be Borderlands. But, we will probably find out more about that later on.
Maybe.
Judging by the way the internet seems to be responding to that film. So what have you seen? We'll go backwards and forwards with ones.
And the fact that Neil Johnson is very, 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 very interested in what I thought about Borderlands, because we've been back and forth between DMs, because he listened to the Kermode Mere podcast and they mentioned it in the top 10, but they didn't fully review it. Whereas obviously I've seen it and I know the background in regards to Borderlands, so he's very interested to hear let's just hear the shit show that is Borderlands, not just in what was on the screen, what actually happened in the background as well.
Yeah,
because
I know a little bit about that,
story.
which explains why some of it appears to be a shit show. And it's a shame because, I'm guessing you've played the Borderlands games before. I've played 1, 2. I enjoyed them. I never for once looked at them and went, you know what, they'd make good movies. It's, that was my own opinion. But I liked the games. I thought the games were fun.
Yeah.
Got a good cast, so that's good. Eli Roth, hit and miss, but he's a good director. When he's good, he's good. And yet, you would probably say that the film is not so good.
Yeah, so Borderlands is probably a good point to land on. So you've hit the nail on the head. The film itself was, the original idea was supposed to be written by Craig Mazin, who done Chernobyl, the Last of Us TV series, and obviously he wrote things like The Hangover Part 1 and 2 and those horrible, horrendous, really bad films. And he made up for it by doing things like Chernobyl and The Last of Us. So he shows that he can actually do something. And he was tapped to write the film back in 2015. That was when the original idea came up. Eli Roth was attached to direct. And so they came up with the ideas, and it was in development hell. Craig Mazin left it, because hence why The Last of Us was created, and hence why Chernobyl was created. So he went off and concentrated on that. So he left it. Eli Roth was then given the writing duty, so he wrote the script. And originally, the film itself was shot as an R-rated film. It was shot and finished, mostly finished, in 2022. And he shot a violent film because he wanted the film to represent the tone of the video game. Mm-hmm. The video game in America is for mature. In the UK, it's an 18, because there's a lot of violence and a lot of sexual characters and all that kind of swearing, etc. So Eli Roth, that's how he shot the film. He shot the film very much like that. And then he had to leave the film in 2022 because he was doing his script for Thanksgiving, which he obviously released in 2023. And then, to his chagrin or terror, the film itself was absolutely destroyed by the studio, and the fact that they wanted reshoots. They did not want the film itself to be potential 15, 18 rated certificate. They wanted the film to hit with a PG-13, 12 year in the UK.
So I'm guessing they'd never played the games then, by the sound of it, the studio.
Exactly. So they wanted that film to appease to a bigger audience. They never thought that if it was a 15 or an 18 certificate, it would not have gotten a bigger audience if it was 12 year or PG-13. Again, considering the video games, they are 18s, you would think, well, that's the audience for the games. Yeah. So they brought in Tim Miller, him of Deadpool 1 and 2 and all that kind of stuff, to reshoot a lot of the film. And then, hence, in its form, released in 2024, it's the absolute car crash mess that it is. Because when you watch the film, you can see elements of the fact that it is an R-rated film, but the jokes and violence on screen is toned down so bad and edited so bad that somebody must have took more than just a pair of scissors to it. They must have took a chainsaw to it, and they absolutely did that, because you can see that.
Give me an example of one of the elements that you saw that makes you think it was.
So you know the psychos in the games.
Yeah.
The psychos are known for violence and the way they attack people. And there is a scene where they go up against a lot of psychos, and you can definitely tell that scene itself meant to have quite a bit of blood, a few beheadings, the usual kind of violence you would have seen in a Deadpool film, like in a 15 rated film. And however, you don't see that. There's fast cuts and all that kind of stuff where they're getting around it by taking out the blood, and you don't see the heads getting lobbed off. And when it comes to the dialogue as well, you hear the word shit said a couple of times, but you know they're not going to hit you with the F's and B's and all that kind of stuff because they can only be said a couple of times in a 12-year film.
Yeah.
So you can tell that dialogue was completely changed. You can see the way scenes have been reshot and the way they're actually gelled together from one scene to another. There is no cohesion. It's just like a set piece, nothing in between, set piece. And it just feels like that. And the way the ending flows as well. You can tell the ending itself just feels like it's been hacked to death. So the film has been getting a lot of hate in its form, that because of how bad the movie is being stitched together by the studio. So I'm not blaming Eli Roth. This is not, because you can see he sort of can attempt to do a child film. The House with the Clock on the Walls is okay, it's fine. But when you watch the film, you think to yourself, this doesn't feel like an Eli Roth film. Because even when he's doing them.
The thing with Eli Roth is we've both known Eli. No, we don't know him, but we've known his name for decades. You think Cabin Fever, you think Hostel, you think Green Inferno. To a certain extent, you think the Death Wish, remake, which was pretty violent. You generally don't think of Eli Roth so much as a PG-13 filmmaker. I don't, anyway.
And even with the House with the Clock on the Walls, you can see it's got some of Eli Roth's handprints on it because there are elements of his horror nature. Like, you just look at that kind of stuff, and with this, there just does not feel like there's a fingerprint of Eli Roth on it. It's a studio hack. It literally is. So I won't put the blame on Eli Roth. He is completely just stepped away from the film. Unfortunately, his name is attached to it because they can't attach Tim Miller's name to it, but his name is attached to it. But he stepped away from it. He's doing Thanksgiving 2. He's got a good script wrote for that. He's doing that. But when I was having the conversation, the fact that, he should just come back and release his R-rated version. The studio will never allow him to do that. The movie's bombed so bad that if he's a smart director, he should just wash his hands of it and then just back away from it.
Yeah,
because that's the smart thing to do. He should just back away from it because it's just a car crash of a movie.
I'd like to see the Eli cut. That would be good because I do like Eli Roth. I think I've not liked all of his films, but generally I like the guy. I like him in interviews. I like to see what he does. He does different stuff. I don't think the studio release it because I don't know. It's quite sad when a filmmaker makes a movie and then the studio go, "Oh, we know more than you," even though you're a filmmaker, and they butcher it. And
yeah, I if I'm being completely honest, I don't want to see an Eli Roth cut of it. Just as much as I watched the Zack Snyder Rebel Moon films, and I've not watched the recuts because I just can't be bothered to even watch them. Because when the original cut leaves such a bad taste in your mouth, you think no matter what they do, you're always going to have that bad taste in your mouth when you're watching the recut version of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work these days because back in when we get onto Alien, for example, the Alien franchise, back when they were released in its standard form and you've got director's cuts of them, they meant something when you watch the director's cut because even though the original version wasn't the cut you wanted to see, there were still good films.
Yeah.
Whereas the director's cut added things that you just never expected or they didn't add to it, and they make for better films. Borderlands is just a bad film where even if there's a director's cut of it, it's still a bad film. So I'd just leave it. Just back away from it. The Borderlands film franchise is no more.
It's dead. Yeah.
Randy Pitchford is an absolute dickhead anyway, the head honcho of Gearbox Software who created the Borderlands series. He's an absolute dick. So he's wanting to do Borderlands 4, the game Borderlands 4. So just let them go back to the video game roots, leave it in the movie thing because we just don't need to see a cut version of it.
I don't know many people that would go to watch a PG-13 Borderlands because they ain't the audience for the games. The audience for the games are like me and you, because I don't know how old the first Borderlands game is, but it's probably a decade or two at least. So we would rather see an older certificate Borderlands. You know, many like 10 or 11-year-olds that go, "I want to watch Borderlands." They'd never heard of Borderlands. They don't know what it is. And played it.
Hence the box office. The box office speaks for it in the fact that it's absolutely tanked. So, leave it. Just push it to one side and leave it. It was released. It exists. That well done.
Yeah, you tried, you failed.
Exactly. And we don't want any more.
Get on to a good one. Go rattle out a good movie you've watched.
I never told you what I thought about.
Don't struggle to find a good one.
I never told you what I thought about Longlegs, did I?
No.
Because I saw Longlegs after the last one.
I know you were excited about it.
A lot of people were on the advertising for it, saying it's the most scary film of the year and all that kind of crap. I hate that. It's not. It's not scary at all. It's tense, so I'll definitely give it that, but it's not scary at all. So I obviously, me being me, knew that when I went in to see it, I wasn't expecting to see a scary film, and that I didn't see a scary film. I saw a tense film with some fantastic acting, because both Micah Monroe and Nicolas Cage are brilliant in the film. Micah Monroe especially. Nicolas Cage, we obviously saw some little hints of his character of Longlegs, but the portrayal of Longlegs, the serial killer, is just unbelievably creepy and eerie, not scary. So it's creepy and eerie rather than scary, and it's shot beautifully. The cinematography in it is outstanding. It feels like a 90s kind of detective film, so like a Seven or something like that. A David Fincher. It's got like a David Fincher kind of feel to it. So it's shot really nicely. The acting, like I said, is really well done. It's sort of like more like a detective thriller, and so you're thinking what's going to happen next, and how they're going to track killer, how they're potentially going to catch the killer, what will happen if they do manage to catch the killer. Is something else happening? Just there's always questions running through your brain throughout the film itself, and mostly those questions are answered. But overall, I really liked Longlegs. I thought it was a really good film. However, some of my friends who went to seen it, they turned around and said it's an absolute pile of crap.
I've seen people, I've seen in the past couple of days, some people talking about it, going, really liked it. Other people going, oh my God, I want my money back. And you're like, and this seems to be a thing nowadays with a lot of films. I've seen the same thing with Romulus as well, where some people are going, oh my God, that's amazing. Other people are like, I was bored. You're like, there's such a huge gap between the Longlegs, love it or hate it type thing.
With Longlegs, though, there's no middle ground. With Alien Romulus, there is. Because I've seen reviews of 2 stars from The Guardian. I've seen reviews of 3 stars from The Telegraph. I've seen reviews of 4 stars from Empire. Whereas with things like Longlegs, it was either getting 4 5 stars or 1 2 stars. There's nothing in between. And that perfectly describes my friends' reactions to it. They hated it. I loved it. So it is the Marmite of films. Perfectly sums me up because I love Marmite. I'm one of those freakazoids who does like Marmite, but that's not to say even though I love Marmite, I loved Longlegs, and you don't like Marmite, and you won't like Longlegs. I think you will actually like Longlegs very, very much, because I think your brain will think it's very much like a Silence of the Lambs. It's like a Seven. It's like one of those.
You had me at mentioning Fincher and Seven. I'm more interested in it. No,
it's a very Fincher film. Osgood Perkins' directorial debut. Next film's out actually in about 5 months' time, early next year. Okay. So Osgood Perkins is it's just constantly just rattling the films out. So the next film, a very, very small little trailer was released of it, just a teaser. I'm hoping they're going to continue that kind of teaser thing, because for once, the marketing campaign for it worked. It wasn't like, oh, this marketing campaign's brilliant, the film sucks. The marketing campaign was brilliant and the film was actually very good.
Or like Borderlands, the marketing campaign sucked and so did the film. So, you know.
Definitely recommend Longlegs.
Okay. I'm going to throw a good one into the mix. Maxine. I finally got around to watching Maxine, the third Ty West in his Pearl trilogy or whatever. I enjoyed Have you seen Maxine?
Yes.
I like Maxine. I don't want to rank it against Pearl and X. I like them all. I love the 80s feel to Maxine. I loved the fact that it used a lot of the Universal lot, because I'm like, I've been there. I love that world. She's a damn good actress. really
Yeah,
good.
every
It's just an
single
odd
time
film.
when I see Mia Goth's name attached to something, I'm very interested in it, even though it might not be very good.
Yeah.
I'll still, I'm very interested in it because she's a really good actress.
And it just reminded me of some films that I watched back in the 80s, these sleazy serial killers stalking, West Hollywood and all that sort of stuff. But good soundtrack to it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. But yeah, again, I've seen other people going, "This is terrible. This film feels so disjointed." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I didn't really get any of that.
I can easily rank them because the best one, in my opinion, is Pearl. And Pearl is outstanding. X is very good, and Maxine is very good. So for me, it's Pearl, X, and then Maxine. I think Maxine, its slight little fault is it doesn't have that hook that Pearl did. Even just that big, huge, massive monologue scene that Mia Goth had in Pearl.
Yeah, the dinner table one. Yeah,
Maxine does not have that. It just didn't have that for me. So that's its slight little misgiving to push to one side. But a lot of people hated the ending. I thought the ending was actually very well executed.
I like the ending. Yeah, I like the ending. So overall, I think it's a solid trilogy. Whether it's I suppose it is a trilogy, isn't it? Or it's an unofficial, whatever it is. But it's a solid set of 3 films. Be interested to see if we're going to get another one, or is that it, do you think?
That's it. That's definitely it. Yeah, because in a couple of interviews, he turned around and went, I don't want to do anymore. It is a trilogy. That's it, done. Unlike with Disney releasing Toy Story 5 and The Incredibles 3 and live action Lilo and Stitch, they can't even think of an original idea. No. He's just gone, trilogy, push to one side, I'm done.
Yeah, I want to do something next. He's not got the James Cameron way. He's got, I'm just going to keep making Avatar movies until I pass out and die.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I enjoyed Maxine. It's good. I enjoyed it.
Ditto.
Cool. What have you got next?
Let's go to the realm of bad with Trap. M. Night Shyamalan.
I like M. Night. Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan is one of those directors, again, like Marmite. You either like him or hate him. In this case here, I don't really like him. For me, he's debut big break film, because it's not his debut film. Prior to releasing The Sixth Sense, he actually did two films about 8 years prior to The Sixth Sense. But I think The Sixth Sense is still his best film. I think he started on a high and then he was constantly tumbling down from a high. And he's maybe stopped a little bit with things like Glass and Split.
I think The Visit was pretty good as well. I think that was one that sort of brought him back a little bit. You not like that one?
No, I did not like The Visit.
Really?
I thought The Visit was just annoying. It's an annoying film. I thought his involvement with Devil, I thought Devil, because I do like those single location kind of films. I did like that idea. And so this is sort of like Trap is Devil, but on an opposite scale. So the trailer itself for Trap only shows the first 2/3 of the film. So that's the tick I'll give it. There is nothing in the trailer from the latter part of the film, the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the film. Yeah. Thank God, though, because the last 20, 25 minutes of the film absolutely sucks even more than what happens before it. And the whole premise of, that Josh Hartnett is the serial killer. It's not spoilers, it's in the trailer.
Yeah.
No, he is the serial killer. There's a group of cops that surrounded this arena where this concert is being held, played by Shyamalan's daughter, who wrote an entire album of music for the film itself. They put on a concert with a good couple of thousand people. Each day they did one song. The crowd had the chance to learn the song itself so they could sing along to the music. So it looked like it was an entire concert that they were at. And so Josh Hartnett takes his daughter to this concert. The building gets surrounded. He needs to try to find a way out. The trap has been set for him, and you know that he's the serial killer. The whole premise of the film is then you thinking, how is he going to get himself out of this one? And every single time the film thinks, or you think there's a good idea, it trips over itself. It fumbles it. And the film itself, to the point where it starts to become even worse, is the point that M. Night Shyamalan shows up.
Oh no!
Because he plays the uncle of the singer, the daughter, rather than the father, which would have made sense. He plays the uncle. And the film itself doesn't just trip over itself, it literally just chops off its own limbs. It then becomes worse and worse and predictable and worse, and to the point where when it does get to the last 20 minutes, you having to sit through it, you're just going, can you just please stop? Just stop what you're doing. Look at what you've actually created. You've created a headache of a film, so just stop.
And he finances his films himself. Has done for a few years, hasn't he?
But Trap is just, it's an annoying film. For me, it's up there quality-wise with The Happening on how bad it is.
I didn't mind that. I don't mind. I mean, we have sort of, I will tolerate mediocre, I think, quite well. I'll be like, it was all right. It's fine. I can't remember. Obviously, Sixth Sense is probably the best film I think he's done. He has done some really good ones. I liked Old. I don't mind The Happening. I think The Village is fine. Signs is good. I think the one thing that annoys me about Shyamalan is when you mention him to somebody like a film fan or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, Shyamalan's got a new, wonder what the twist will be. I think the fact that his early films had these twists has made the public go, he's the twist guy, therefore he has to have one. And I don't know whether there is one in Trap, but if Shyamalan does a film that doesn't have a twist, people would be complaining about that, going, there's no twist. It's kind of weird. Yeah. So I think he's just damaged himself in that regard.
I'll not tell you if there is a twist in Trap. I will say there is an end credit sequence. I just, why? It's not a superhero film or it's going to set up another film. There's just an end credit sequence. So, but he is a director, though, that when I do see his name attached to something, I'm intrigued. I'm thinking, will he actually get himself out of this doldrum? Because I've not seen a good film from M. Night Shyamalan since Split.
Which is a good old few years ago, really, isn't it now?
Everything everything he's released after Split has been pants.
Right, yeah.
Because I hated Old. I thought Old was a good idea, but a very bad film wrapped around it.
I wasn't a fan of Glass. I thought it was okay, but I wasn't a massive fan of that one. But Split I enjoyed.
It was like you're going to the shops to buy a Kinder Egg and you're unwrapping it and about to bite into it and the chocolate ends up being completely fake. And it is just like tuna wrapped around the egg itself.
So I'm going to be more polite to M. Night. I think M. Night reminds me of if somebody decides to make feature-length movies out of some Twilight Zone episodes, but maybe not as good as Twilight Zone episodes. But they're all kind of weird. And I like the fact that there is a filmmaker like M. Night. I might not like every film. I feel the same about David Lynch. I don't like every film that David Lynch does, but I like the fact that there's a David Lynch out there who's making films. Same with Cronenberg. David might not like every single film, but I like the fact that these people exist to hopefully surprise us one day. But M. Night's struggling a bit by the sound of it.
Very much so. I do like directors who are willing to take a risk. And there are tons and tons of directors out there who are willing to take a risk. But M. Night Shyamalan feels like a director there that once he comes up with the idea, he thinks to himself, I've got to film it. Like, he doesn't take a second to stop and think, will this actually make a good film? He just goes, I've got an idea, I need to film it. I've got an idea, I need to film it.
And because he's financing it, nobody's going to go, I don't think you should do that with your own money. They're going to be like, all right, can you hire me to empty the toilets or whatever? Type the script up or something.
The problem is he's going to hit a stumbling block sometime with that when he's trying to ship it off to a distribution company that are they going to actually release it?
Yeah.
So
can't be as bad as After Earth, though. That's definitely a low point, I think. I didn't even make it all the way through that film. I'm out. I'm done.
I did.
I did not like that film at all.
I wish I could get access to a lot of the back catalogue of podcasts that me and Andy did for the Monday Movie Show, because I reviewed After Earth in the cinema section and he did the home release one. And so I did sit through the entirety of After Earth. I don't even if I hate a film, I will always make sure I watch the entirety of it. So I never switch a film off. I've never switched a film off. I've still actually sat through the entirety of it. So
my life's too short. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not wasting time on this.
I'm the sucker who sat through the entirety of things like Jack and Jill and Movie 43 and stuff like that. So
I sat through both of those. Yeah.
and all the Chipmunk films and
Never. No.
all 350 Shades of Grey films and
Sat through the
stuff
first one.
like that.
Yeah.
I sat through all three of them, so I've really hated myself, but I sat through them.
When you look back on your life, you're like, God damn it. I made some missteps. So do you not have the archive of all the podcast episodes? Do you not keep copies of them?
No, because they went up on Spreaker, and we did attach them to iTunes, and I think they were attached to Spotify, so they might be on Spotify. I'll have to have a little look at hunt around for them, see if they are.
Because you could turn them into YouTube videos or something, couldn't you? You could do something with them.
There is so many episodes though, because remember back when we launched the show in 2010, we split them. So there was an episode which was for the cinema releases, and then there was an episode for the home releases, and so there are so many episodes.
I'm up to 744. This one is now, and that's probably with a few missing. And you did a lot more.
Yeah, I don't want to count. No, thank you.
Lots. Have you seen Abigail? I watched Abigail, and I enjoyed Abigail. I went into Abigail not knowing, and other than the fact it had a girl in like a ballerina dress sitting on the cover, and it was called Abigail. I knew nothing about that film whatsoever. And Annette and I sat down and we watched it, and we're like, oh, this is quite. Yeah, Annette works it out. She's a smart arse like that, so she'd be like, I reckon this is the plot. And you're like, all right, and she got it right about the backstory of Abigail, so to speak. But I enjoyed that. I really like that film. Good.
What I find funny is I actually talked about Abigail on the last podcast. So
I know, clearly just. To be fair, I've been ill for like a month now, so I'm on the mend now, but it's been a rough month.
It just absolutely zapped out everything that has happened prior to that. But I liked Abigail. It's an old-fashioned, leave your brain at the door, gory, slightly silly comedy horror film from the directors of the last two Scream movies. So
I liked it. It was fun. So but I like going into films. Obviously, after we had a conversation about it, going in and going, I don't even know what this film is. Let's watch it. So. I've got that one. What's next on yours?
Let's have a little look. See, the only problem is with the rest of the films that I've got written down here, there's one really good film, and then there's one good film, one average film, and then the rest are pants.
Okay. So
the pants ones, just to meld them into a big ball of pants, The Exorcism. So typical priest exorcist kind of film, Pope's exorcism.
Is this another Russell Crowe one as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like, why would you do two films of the word exorcist or exorcism in them in a row? That's clearly
The Exorcism. It was shot before the Pope's Exorcist, but released after it. So the film itself was finished, and he probably just forgot that he did it
on purpose.
Yeah, and it is just terrible. It's from the director of the son who directed it. His father played the priest in The Exorcist.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's not a good through line for me, considering how I feel about The Exorcist.
You're not a huge fan of that classic movie, no.
But The Exorcism is just total and utter tosh. Total and utter tosh. A film The Mousetrap. So when Mickey Mouse or Steamboat Willie, to be specific, went into public domain on January the 1st. Yeah. And then we got hit with a slew of this is what's going to happen. Like there's a video game coming. There's a horror film, which was The Mousetrap or Mickey's Mousetrap, but they had to change it to The Mousetrap. Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, when you type in The Mousetrap, the first thing you get is something to do with Agatha Christie.
Which I have seen that play. Yep. When you mentioned The Mousetrap, I'm like, oh, I've seen that in the theatre. It's great.
Yes. So not that. And then there is a Mickey's Mousetrap coming out next year, film-wise. So The Mousetrap is as bad as you might think. It probably is going to make my worst films of the year list. It's a group of 21-year-old delinquents who go to, the Chuck E. Cheese kind of arcade funfair things. in America, very similar to Willy's Wonderland and Five Nights at Freddy's and all that kind of stuff, but without the animatronics.
Yep.
So they throw a party for one of them in there. There's lots of video games around, and then there's this serial killer that's wearing a Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse mask.
Yep.
But you find out that the serial killer is not, in fact, a serial killer. It, in fact, could be a ghost of some kind, because this Mickey Mouse can teleport and does not like torches. So if you want to scare him away, you just shine a torch at him.
Oh, okay.
And he just disappears. It makes absolutely zero sense. No sense whatsoever. It's horrendous. It's really horrendous. It's worse than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
So it's like Mickey Mouse meets Pitch Black. Obviously, you can just get them away with the light. Yeah, that works.
If they could teleport.
Oh yeah,
they literally can teleport. So honestly, it makes absolutely zero sense. Even if the gore was actually quite fun, like an over-the-top gory kind of film, I might have given it a couple of points here and there. It doesn't even have any gore in it. Like the death scenes. It takes the Mickey pretty much as Scream.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
That pun was intended. Yep.
But in Scream, where the serial killer Ghostface wipes the knife against him with the blood on it to sort of like intimidate somebody, this Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse does exactly the same. The few things they decided to leave out, though, was one, the intimidation, and two, all importantly, the blood. Because he wipes his knife against him, but there is no blood on the blade at all. And so a few deaths are just pretty much somebody getting their throat sliced. There is no like ingenious deaths, for example, in A Violent Nature's kind of ingenious death. There's nothing like that in it at all. There is no saving grace, not one single saving grace to the entire film. It's atrocious.
Super, super low budget, I'm guessing. Do you think it's like the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 1 type?
It feels like it's got a slightly higher budget than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Right.
The budget feels a little bit high because it would have cost them to hire the place. So the place, and then obviously all the power to run all the games and stuff. They've got VR games in there and all that kind of stuff. So it probably would have cost them more. So that's why, again, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is better than this, even though Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is a terrible film.
Because it was cheap and it made a fortune. So.
Yeah, the Mousetrap is even worse. It's rotten to the core. So, yeah, terrible film.
Skip that.
Also, just to quickly mention, I don't know if you've heard of a story about a film called The Bench.
No.
It's a Scottish film. So the film itself, it began shooting 17 years ago.
This might become one where I'm like, yeah, I do know about that. But yeah.
There was a couple of news stories released about a week and a half ago in regards to it. The BBC picked up a news story where this director, I can't remember his name, he created a film 17 years ago. He intended to be very much akin of a 70s kids go to a cabin in the woods, serial killer kind of thing, or cult kind of thing, going around killing them. And so the film began shooting 17 years ago, and throughout the time, there were people like some of the actors dropped out, the production company dropped out, the editing crew, they were no longer available. He tried to edit the film himself on a computer that he tried to buy or bought, and it couldn't actually do it. And so he had to wait for technology to get slightly better. So in 2012, he tried to edit the film again, and unfortunately he couldn't. He had to try to get a couple of the actors back to do some reshoots. He had to try and edit the sound himself. And then he was able to finally finish the film and release it in 2024.
Fair play to him for releasing it. I think I'd have given up.
I'll give him absolute props for doing that. But the film itself is awful.
I don't think you would think it to be anything else, though, unfortunately. I think with a 17-year, I mean, we're not talking Richard Linklater here with Boyhood. It was like 12 years or whatever where it was planned. I can't even imagine still trying to finish something after 17 years. So definitely I'm giving him props for perseverance. But
nothing makes sense in the film. The dialogue doesn't match up. The sound quality is awful. The camera quality is awful, because I watched it in full HD 1080p. yet it's so grainy to look at.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a found footage film. It is so grainy to look at, which I understand he tried to make it a very akin to like a 70s film, but it doesn't feel like it's got that artificial grain to it to make it feel like it's a 70s film. It's just that when he edited it together, the software I'm guessing he was using was so bad that it just didn't do a good enough job. And I'm wondering if he got to the end of his tether and he just went, screw this, I've got to finish it, I've got to get it out.
I would think, and again, I'm giving him kudos for that, because it's like, I'm sure me or you would be like, you know what, I'm going to throw that one in the bin. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to, make The Trap or something. But yeah, interesting. I've heard of it. I think Fraser mentioned it to me or shared a link or something online. I'm like, and I saw the article, but maybe we'll try and get him on the podcast and be like, what happened? Let's talk about your film. But fair play to him for finishing it.
I feel so bad though for bashing it, but it's obviously I had my movie critic brain stuck into my stupid noggin, and so that's how I thought of it. So with that film there, I'm still not sure about if I will include Murderitatville in my worst films of the year list. If I do, it will guarantee to be my worst film of the year, because it's one of the only films I've given in a very long time a 0, because there's absolutely nothing redeemable at all in Murderitatville.
And yet it's not all the way through it.
It's only on for 47 minutes, so it's not much to sit through, even though the runtime of the film is an hour and 10 minutes. But the last 20 minutes of that film is a making of. They literally have the making of the film on the film. Okay. But the reason why I don't want to include it potentially on the list is the only way you can actually watch Murderitatville is if you purchase it.
Yeah.
You can't watch it anywhere else. So I might give The Bench a bit of a pass on the fact that I will give him a pat on the back for persevering with it.
Hell yeah.
But the end product is, if I was going down my movie critic brain, it's not very good at all. But I might throw Murderitatville away in my list just because it's, oh God, that film is awful. So what I might do is when I do my worst films of the year list, I'll do my 5-1 or 10-1, and then I'll see a caveat being at the end, this is actually the worst film of the year.
Yeah.
So Murderitatville. Okay. But yeah, I would say watch it if you can. Watch The Bench.
Yeah.
Just to see his final sort of like product.
Yeah.
And then good films, because one I know you've seen. I've seen Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I've not seen
so
that.
I'm not a huge.
No.
I'm not a huge comic book fan anyway, and Deadpool and Wolverine is a very average film. Again, I got a lot of hate from friends going, oh, you don't like comic book films. I knew you would think it was average. The humor doesn't hit as much as it did in the first two. It just felt like it was the best of Fox and all that kind of stuff. Let's bring them all together.
Yeah.
The worst thing about the film, though, is there's about 4 jokes, and it constantly beats you over the head with these 4 jokes. So he's obviously misogynistic, and the sexual references, that's fine, being in the previous ones, but they weren't force-fed down your mouth. In this one, it felt like the same. The Fox bashing, fine if you're going to have a couple of jokes in regards to it, but there is so many jokes in regards to it, it's ridiculous. The Disney bashing, again, fine, throw a few jokes in it, but again, they're completely forced down your throat because they can't think of anything else. And then they're just constant cameos. It was like, oh, look, here's a cameo to distract you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problems.
And I saw the internet get really mad, as it always does, about people mentioning cameos, like even a week after the film came out. Yeah. Oh, Blade's in it. Spoilers! The film's been out like 2 weeks, guys. If you really wanted to watch it, you'd have gone and watched it already. I haven't seen it. I'm not too fussed about spoilers with that regard, with that film. But they were getting really mad. It's like, did you not realize that people are going to be spoiling films on the internet? It's what happens. Either stay off the internet or watch the film quick. And otherwise.
The thing is, though, that they've used the cameos as sort of like vignettes, little featurettes, 30-second quick bite trailers
you can't avoid
on YouTube, etc. So. But yeah, there are elements of the film which is good. There was a few good action set pieces in the film, and so there are elements which is good. But for the most of part of it, it's just very, very bog standard average movie.
Yeah.
And then a movie that I know you've been throwing a lot of information in regards to it on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen it, Namua.
I have a screener of that because the director of that, Adam, sent it to me. He sent it to me about 3 weeks ago when I was smack in the midst of whatever illness I'm just getting over now. So I haven't watched it yet. If you have you watched the film?
I have, yes.
You have watched the film, right? I was going to say, if you haven't, I would have a word with Adam going, do you want me, send Stu one? So no, I haven't. And I feel really bad because it's like, I want to concentrate on it. It's an online screener, so I'm going to have to watch it at my, watching the computer. But because of the weird viral thing that I've had, it's like, I really don't want to stare at a screen for an hour and a half and not be able to concentrate on something. So I haven't watched it. And then part of me, whilst being ill, is thinking, Adam either thinks I watched the film and didn't like it, or I don't want to watch it and I couldn't give a stuff. It's like, it's not the case, Adam. I just want to give it the concentration that it deserves because he reached out and he's like, how would you like to watch it? So I'm like, yes, I would actually. So I haven't managed to see it yet. I am planning to watch it this week.
Well, I liked it. So you can breathe a sigh of relief.
Adam, you can calm down.
Yes.
Does Adam know you liked it?
No. But I did like it. There are elements of it which don't work, but for the most part, I will give him huge, massive credit for how he shot the moors.
Yeah.
Because it's an eerie place, and to get that on film as well is quite a hard thing to do, to push his actors and his camera crew and all that kind of stuff through the tumultuous place that is the moors. You've got to give somebody credit for actually doing that, and encapsulates the darkness and the eeriness and the loneliness of the moors is really hard to do as well. And I think he does a really good job of doing that. The last sort of like 25 minutes of the film reminded me a lot of films like The Wicker Man. So the original Wicker Man, not the remake.
Not the remake. No bees.
Not the Nicolas Cage, or not the sequel. The sequel's awful.
Never watched it. Don't need to watch the sequel.
You really don't want to watch the sequel. But it reminded me of those kind of films. Even though there's a group of people there, there's the loneliness there.
Yeah.
And so that's, it reminded me of that. So I did like it. I did like the Moors.
Good. I know he's put a lot of work into it because I speak to him on Facebook now and again. And every time I was speaking to him, he's like, I'm editing this and I'm doing that. I've done a teaser trailer, and he's running an Indiegogo campaign to put a premiere on so all the cast and crew can show up. And so he has worked his socks off. He managed to grab like a 5-minute Skype chat with me probably like a month ago. And whilst we were doing that, he was like tinkering around editing. I'm like, just put it down, Adam. Talk to me. I'm important. I have an IMDb page and everything. So he has worked his socks off on that film. So it's good to know it comes across as that as well.
It does, because when I was watching the elements when they're actually on the moors themselves, it felt like I was watching American Werewolf in London again.
Yeah.
So when they're walking across the moors in American Werewolf in London, again, they're together, but the loneliness, there's something there. And that sort of like had that feeling as well. The moors had that kind of feeling. So there is something there, but there is that loneliness, even though you've got like about 5 other people with you.
Yeah.
So deserves a pat on the back. Did a good job. So
he will be extremely happy to know that you liked it. I will make sure I send him this podcast and the timestamp so he can have a listen to your thoughts on the moors. But yeah, my to watch list is really, really short. It's like 2 films at the minute because I've just not taken it anymore to watch. And that's like the next one to watch. But because it's an online screener and it's like, no, I don't know what I've had for the past month, but it's been pretty brutal, whatever it is. So yeah, I'm now on the other side of it. Thank God.
I'll throw out Oddity because Oddity is not officially released in the UK until the end of September. I was kindly sent the screener of it. It's being billed again as the scariest film of the year. I'll probably mention it next month. So Oddity. I know you want to talk about Twisters, but before I talk about Twisters, last film is the film that I've just finished watching before we started recording this. It's on YouTube. It's completely free. It's just came out. It was just dropped. It's called Milk and Cereal. So cereal is spelled as in the serial killer rather than as in the cereal as in that. It's on for just over an hour. It's written, directed by a director called Curry Barker. So Curry, as in the food, not as in Curry, Kerry, hence my stupid Macam accent, which they both sound exactly the same. I could have said curry, but I would have wanted to punch myself in the face. So it's written and directed by that. It's about 2 famous YouTubers who play pranks on each other, but one of the pranks goes completely OTT, over the top. That's it. That's all I'll leave it as. It's found footage, so it's shot on found footage. It was shot for $3,000 only. There is a website, but the website's got nothing on it. So I'm wondering if they're sort of like set up the website, setting up their own production company and going to do things like this. Very similar to the Raka Rakas, who did Talk to Me. And so they set up their YouTube thing, and then they got the break with Talk to Me, and Talk to Me is outstanding. I love that film. And so these are definitely one to watch out. So pop milk and cereal on your list.
I shall.
Don't actually pop it on your list and then go to the shop and get milk and cereal. Pop it on your list. It's on, like I said, it's on YouTube. You just search for milk and cereal. It's completely free. So they put it up on YouTube themselves. So it's not illegally put up on YouTube. It's on for just over an hour. And there is a lot of twists and turns and sort of like sidesteps, missteps, things like that in the entirety of the film. It's really well shot. Very well acted. I really, really liked it. So,
well, what I'll do is, because I have on frompage2screen.com, I have the little multiplex page where I put films in, and one of the screens I sometimes ask you to pick something to put in there. I will put milk and cereal in that one. So anybody who wants to watch it, go to my website and you can find it there. So
definitely give it a watch, because it's just the length of one episode of a TV series. So it just is, have that slight little distraction, pop it on YouTube. Highly recommend it. I thought it was extremely well created. It reminded me a lot of Host. So when Host was released during the pandemic in 2022, that's a fantastic film. Unfortunately, he went off to direct Dashcam, and Dashcam,
which is not good.
Dashcam was characters ever.
There's
a couple of good ideas in that film, but my God, is the protagonist so frustratingly annoying. But Host is fantastic. Milk and Cereal, hopefully they don't go down the Dashcam route with their next one, but I really do recommend it.
Okay, I shall check that out, and I'll add it to the website later on as well.
Awesome. And then it is just Twisters.
I like Twisters. I like fun, silly, popcorny movie. I watched one called Jackpot last night. I don't know if you've seen that one with John Cena. I liked it. It was fun. It wasn't hysterical. I think Annette said she'd laughed about 4 times, which is fine. So it doesn't quite hit the 6 mark, 6 laugh commode thing. But Jackpot was just stupid. Twisters, I wanted to see destruction, people chasing tornadoes, doing crazy things that you probably wouldn't do because you're going to get yourself killed. Pretty much what I got with Twisters. I'm glad that there wasn't really an element of romance in it. I mean, there was the hint of it. You're like, but there was no smoochy, kissing, lovemaking scene or whatever. A lot of Hollywood studios probably would have put that in. I like the fact they didn't, and it was just carnage. I thought it was fine. What's your thoughts? What did you expect?
Pretty much the same.
Yeah,
I thought it was fine. I really liked Twister.
Same.
The Helen Hunt film. I just really, really liked that movie, because I think it was just seeing it on the big screen. It was around the time when films like Independence Day and stuff like that was released. It's that kind of awe-inspiring movie, released in 96. And so I was like come up at the age of 17. And so you're still aghast at what could actually be shown on the big screen in the cinema. This one didn't do that for me.
No,
it didn't make me aghast and go, oh my God, because we've seen it before in huge, massive scale of a film. But it still was. It reminded me of that old school fashioned popcorn film, the cinema kind of movie where during the summer months when you were off school, you could go to the cinema, and on Facebook every now and again they keep on throwing pictures up of what Sunderland used to look like in the 80s and early 90s. And I saw one on Thursday, and they showed the old cinema, the old Canon cinema, which was called, and had 2 screens, and it said the films that was on the screens, and on screen 2 was Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Nice.
And
1990.
When it changed into the ABC cinema, and so it reminded me of sort of like that kind of thing. Like you're off school for 6 weeks, what can you do? Annoy your mum by watching really crappy daytime TV, or get
go
in
out.
there and actually do something and cook yourself up in a big massive room with a big massive screen and get yourself a small little tub of ice cream, which I couldn't because I'm lactose intolerant, but getting yourself a little drink or whatever, and your ticket. And in my case, I even remember the entire route of how to get to the screen
Yeah,
in
I
the
can.
cinema
Yeah.
itself. So in the Canon, if you were on screen one, you were on the left-hand side. You walked into the door. The ticket booth was right beside you on the left-hand side. The concession stand was right just beside there, where you had the big, huge, massive glass counter. You saw all the popcorn. Beside that was the door for screen two. And then screen one, you walked up one set of flight of stairs. You turned right, walked up the other flight of stairs. Diagonally to the left of you was the screen door. You went in the screen door, and this was huge, massive auditorium area. Screen right at the front with the stage in front of it, rows of seats, and then rows of seats going up diagonally. And I just remember, I'm sad when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I sound old, but going to the cinema now is just not the same as it was going back in the 90s or the 80s. It really wasn't. That's not even taking into account the films. The whole layout of cinemas, it isn't the same as it was.
Exactly. So going back to Twisters, it sort of like reminded me of those kind of days. Even though the film itself is not brilliant, but it's still the kind of blockbuster, old school popcorn movie which we're missing as of late. The last film that I saw at the cinema, which sort of like reminded me of that era, was Bumblebee.
Yeah.
I really liked Bumblebee. I thought Bumblebee had a charm to it, and it reminded me of that kind of time again of going to the cinema and whatever. Because I really like Pete's Dragon, the live action version. It's the best live action Disney film they've ever released. But a lot of people just didn't like it, and I did. I thought it had a charm to it, and so it just reminded me of that kind of thing. So it's a good film. It's a good popcorn, old school kind of big explosion, loud noises, nothing much else.
Yeah. You're right about the effects and the CGI. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the effects in Twisters, but watching Twister back in the mid-90s, you were like, how have they done this? This is amazing, because it was only like 3 years from Jurassic Park. So we're like, oh my God, these effects are amazing. That looks like a real tornado. Nowadays, we watch something like Twisters and we're like, yeah, it looks good. There's no sort of wowness about the effects because we've become so used to it. But it didn't take me out of the film. I thought the cast were fine. I do prefer Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton and Philip Seymour Hoffman and all of them. But I thought Glenn Powell was fine, trying to do his like, I'm going to be the next Tom Cruise type thing. But Daisy was fine. I liked the cast. I like the fact they had Bill Paxton's son as a cameo. He was the hotel guest as a nice little sort of nod. So we did have the spirit of Bill Paxton sort of in there. But the film was fine. It's not going to go on my top 10 of the year or anything, but certainly not going to go on a bad list. I wouldn't not recommend it.
Exactly. Pretty much how I feel of it.
And
that's it. And those films there that I've gone through, there are still, I could have added another 10 to that list. Yeah. But I thought we would be here forever if I did that. So I just omitted quite a few.
I think I managed to scratch off quite a few. I'm just running over my cable here. I scratched off quite a few as well, which I'll probably save, and we'll probably do it on the next podcast. That means I don't have to watch too much in the next couple of weeks. I can get around to finally watching The More by Adam Mawson. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so that's quite a good list. I think there's enough recommendations in there for people to take note of and go watch some good films and whatnot.
Yeah, so recommendations out that list. And if people are wondering, is Maxine, definitely see that. Definitely watch Longlegs. If you have for a brain dead film but fun, watch Twisters. Please see them all. Support the Indiegogo campaign, etc. Let the cast actually see it on the big screen. It'll be fantastic for them to see that and see the what they've created. And Milk and Cereal, watch that on YouTube. And I think the rest just don't even bother.
At the premiere, Adam needs to make sure he's got a padded jacket on because he'll probably get lots of pats on the back by the sound of it from all the people in the audience. So that is good. Right, I've changed my background now. Here we go. Nice little alien one. And then I'm going to chop this. Anybody on the audio feed's getting the whole lot in one conversation. And anybody on YouTube is getting two. So that's quite good. So yes, so you've been to see Alien Romulus.
I have indeed.
I don't know how many Alien films there's been. It's like 9 of them or 8 of them or something like that. I did have them all listed.
If
4,
you count,
5, 6,
well,
7, 8, 9. If you count AVPs,
Alien First, yeah.
I think.
Because
Why am I doing that? And 9. That's 6, dumbass. That's 9. Right.
Yes. So
yes.
the order that people, if I know people have been looking for timelines and stuff like that, if you ignore the Alien versus Predator films, Alien versus Predator and Requiem, because they're set on modern day Earth. So just ignore those 2 films. They're not part of the canon itself, but just push them to one side. The order that you need to actually watch the entire series, if you want to do it this way, is Prometheus is first, then it's Alien Covenant, then it's Alien, then it's Alien Romulus, then it's Aliens, Alien 3, Resurrection.
Yeah.
That's the order itself, because Resurrection is actually set around about 200 years after Alien 3. But yeah, that's the order, because I had a couple of friends that they want to go to the cinema and they went, oh, so I've got to go back and watch Alien Covenant or whatever. I went, nope, if you've seen Alien, then you're fine. You just need to actually watch Alien and then watch this, because this is set about 20 years after what happens in Alien.
Could you go and watch? Because I know one person that went to see it, they'd never seen an Alien film before. Do you think it would make sense if nobody's ever seen any of the? I mean, why they've never seen Alien before? Get a grip, go watch that first because it's a classic. But it would make sense watching Romulus.
Yes, I'm not. There is a spoiler that I could give away, but I'm not going to say it. But yes, because unlike with, say, if you saw Alien, if there was Alien, Aliens, Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection out, and or Alien Resurrection was just about to come out, and you said, would I be fine and go and see Alien Resurrection, not seeing Aliens, or Alien 3? Then I would have said no. Right. You have to see Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3 because it has the main protagonist in it, in all 3. So Sigourney Weaver's Ripley. Yeah. This does not feature Sigourney Weaver's Ripley. So, for example, or any of the characters from Alien, Covenant, or Prometheus. Yeah. So it doesn't feature any of them. It's set between Alien and Aliens, so you're fine. If you've never seen an Alien film before, which you should, idiots. Oh, God, in that case, I would say go and watch Alien. It's not a very long film anyway. Please watch the director's cut.
Do you prefer the directors? Because we're going to do this whole section. It'll just be chatting the Alien franchise. I love the fact that the Blu-ray set I've got's got multiple versions, well, 2 versions of every single film in the box set. And I don't dislike one more than the other, but I never really, with Aliens, the director's cut, it's a lot better. You're like, this is a lot better because we've got 17 minutes extra. It's great. With Alien, you're like, I could happily watch the theatrical version or the director's cut. I don't really care which. It doesn't really add to me tons. Obviously, you got the Tom Skerritt with the grenade scene and stuff, which is probably the most memorable one. But why do you put the director's cut over the original version?
But the way I see it, that is, if you come into the franchise afresh, then do watch the director's cut, because we've seen the Alien franchise. We've seen Alien, Aliens, Alien 3. Maybe seen potentially Alien Resurrection before we even knew, or the director's cut versions of Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3 was actually ever released. Yeah. So we had seen the normal theatrical cut when it was shown on television. It was always shown in the theatrical form. It was never shown in the director's cut form. So we had already seen it's in its original form. It's just we've watched the director's cuts when we've managed to get the limited edition Blu-rays or DVDs or something like that. So for first-time viewers, I recommend just watching the director's cut, because it does have those extra bits and bobs in it that might not, to ourselves, add too much to it, unlike with Aliens and Alien 3. But for somebody who's coming to refresh to the series, you might as well just start with the director's cuts of each one of the films itself. Yeah. So that's the reason why I recommend the director's cuts over the standard version. I sort of agree with you with Alien, the fact that you don't have to, but that's coming from our point of view. But for newbies, I recommend the director's cut first.
Okay. Yep. And if nobody's seen Alien, come on, give me a break. So, if there's a list of best films ever, Alien does go on my list.
Yep.
Easily.
And Aliens.
Such a good film. Yep. We'll get into which is the best one. I want to try and get some sort of ranking of a lot of these films in this episode as well. But an Alien versus Aliens is always a tricky one because they're very different films, both great films, but which one's the best is another topic. So let's get back onto Romulus.
Yeah, so the basic premise of Romulus is, remember the scene in Aliens in the director's cut, back onto the director's cut, where we see a couple of kids cycling around on LV426, just in the little go-kart kind of things. They're getting in the way of a few people. They're causing a tiny little bit of havoc.
Yeah.
So just imagine that if you take that idea and expand it out to a colony, which you see, where it's a mining colony, which is the Wheel-and-Yutani company. They've got around about 2,500 people on this colony because their whole task is to try and colonize planets because something's wrong with Earth. We'll find out what actually is wrong with Earth because we've got Alien Earth, which comes out early next year. The TV series, that's the full title of it now. Mm-hmm. Alien Earth. It is FX, so it'll probably be shown on Sky over here, but it's early next year when it comes out, and that is set before Prometheus.
Oh,
yeah. I know. Yeah. It'll get more confusing.
Let me just add that to my spreadsheet. Yeah.
So with Romulus, like I said, it's 2,500 people on this planet itself. And the film itself centers around a group, a small little pocket of people on this colony, specifically two main characters, Katie Spaney's character of Rian and David Johnson's character of Andy. Andy is the droid character of the film itself. Not giving it, again, any spoilers.
He's got to have a droid in an Aliens movie, yeah.
What happens is with these small few people is a couple of them discover a distress signal or a signal from a huge, massive space station that is orbiting above the planet that potentially has cryo chambers that will enable them to get to be in cryostasis for long enough so they can reach what they deem as their Mecca. So a planet which they can see the sunshine every day rather than just toxic fumes and dirt and just people getting bullied and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then once they get onto the Romulus and Remus, because the space station is split into two, bad things start to happen. Pretty much the basic premise of the film itself. If you've played Alien Isolation, you will instantly get the premise of Alien Romulus. Because there is a scene, and again, this is not a spoiler because it's such a throwaway kind of scene, very similar to if you watch the Warcraft film. There's a scene right about 10 minutes into the film itself when you get to the swamps and you hear the Murloc. Make that strange, squeaky kind of noise. If you know World of Warcraft and you know the Murloc sound, it's sort of like one of those kind of films, a thing that me and around about 3 other people in the cinema, when I saw the Warcraft movie, laughed at because we understood what it is.
Yeah. In
this, there's a scene where you've got the little ship that's come up from the planet itself with these people on. It's docked with the Romulus. And, have you played Alien Isolation?
I've played some of it, so enough to know.
The save mechanism. The save mechanism in Alien Isolation, where you've got to stick this key card into this lock. You've got to pull down this handle twice for you to actually save. The mechanism for them to be able to get into the Romulus is that.
Right.
It's a bright yellow handle. They literally have to pull it down. They literally pull it down twice. And then, the vent shafts in Alien Isolation as well, where they just open up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. There's sort of like a vent shaft and it opens up. And then the first thing for them to get, the main part of it is they have to crawl through this very tight duct. And that scene there, it's only about 3 minutes long, but I had such a big smile on my face when that scene was there because I was going, Fede Alvarez has played the video games. He knows the video game of Alien Isolation. This is sort of like a little nod for the video game players in the audience. I think I might have been the only person who got it. Yep. I'm hoping the people behind me got it because they sound like they did. But that little thing there sort of like encapsulated my thought of Romulus. Even though the film itself is not the best Alien film, there are little elements inside the film where it's sort of like little Easter eggs for people who know the series. Yet there is a hell of a lot more in there where it is that if you're completely fresh to the series itself, like it adds its own rules to it, like with the face huggers. It adds its own little rule in regards to facehuggers, where you discover something about them that you didn't know. Like, you've gotten hints of it in previous Alien films, but you didn't know about it. Also, there is very few scenes where actually there is no scenes where you see the alien pods. So when the facehuggers actually stay inside the pods, there is none of them. Again, this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There is a scene where they're in the cryo chambers inside the Romulus. They're trying to get the tubes out, and they get locked in a room. And the facehuggers drop in the water and chase after them. They're sort of like in little sort of like pouches of sorts, that when the heat gets up to a certain level, that's how they drop in the water. And so you see more of that than you do with the pods.
The eggs, yeah.
So there are things like that where you think you know everything in regards to maybe it's the standard xenomorph or the facehuggers or other things. But Fede Alvarez adds his own little thing to it, going, well, you didn't know this. Or you didn't know this about how these weapons work or how these computers work. Or, for example, you look at the computer screens in Alien, and well, specifically Alien, it looks like an old Commodore 64.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
They do exactly the same kind of keyboards and things like that in this, and the exact same kind of monitors with the green scan lines and all that kind of stuff in this as well. And so as an Alien fan, I just sort of like appreciated that. Yeah. There are parts of the film which is ropey. It does get a bit ropey itself. I felt like the script was slightly underwritten, that the dialogue that the characters themselves had to relay across each other was slightly underwritten. I think it could have been a lot more stronger and a lot more tighter. I think the cast are very well done. I definitely appreciate the fact that the cast is full of unknowns.
Yeah.
Which, pat on the back to Fede Alvarez for that, because I don't think it would have worked because the annoying thing about Prometheus and Alien Covenant is, we'll get a Michael Fassbender or we'll get a Noomi Rapace and people know who they are. It's nice to have the film where you pretty much, the biggest star is Kaylee Spinney. Do people know who she is? Probably not.
No.
And then the rest of the cast is David Johnson, Archie Reno, Isabel Merced, Spike Fern, Alien Wu. And so you don't know who any of them are. And it's really nice to have that.
All bets are off then, aren't they? If you see like a Michael Fassbender, you're like, well, he's probably not going to be in it for the first 5 minutes and then get killed off. But if you put a cast of unknowns, you don't know who's going to get face hugged.
Exactly, which is a nice thing to have in the film. There are elements of tension. There are elements which, again, I will give Fede Alvarez a hug, because something I absolutely love in horror films is silence. I adore silence, and right from the off, you're not thrown in with a musical score when the opening credits of Salvo comes up. Silence. It's just completely dead silent. And I loved that. And there was a couple of scenes in the film itself where it's just dead silence. And the score is brilliant. The score is very reminiscent of Alien and Aliens. I absolutely loved the score. Cinematography, I loved. The score, I loved. The acting was good. The script was There was a couple of set pieces which doesn't work. It's slightly too overlong. The end 15 minutes is the typical problem that was with Prometheus. So it has a few little missteps, but overall I was very happy with this one, considering that previous film, Covenant, was an absolute pants.
I think Covenant, I've gone back and rewatched. I know Neil Johnson's a huge fan of Covenant. I wasn't when I first saw it. I'm like, nothing happens in this film. It's boring. I've been back and rewatched it, and it's not bad. It's probably the weakest of the Alien films in my list or whatever. It looks beautiful, but beyond that, I'm just like, I don't really feel the need to rewatch Covenant every 6 months in the same way I'd rewatch Ridley's Alien or Cameron's Aliens or Fincher's Alien 3. So Romulus fits well into the Alien franchise. Yeah,
because if gun against me head, if you told me you need to rank your list itself, Covenant definitely dead last for me. Then Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
Then Alien Resurrection, because Alien Resurrection gets a bad rep. Apart from the ending of Alien Resurrection, There is a lot to really like with Inside Alien Resurrection.
Beautiful looking film.
Yeah.
I like the cinematography. It's like very green. It's Alien Resurrection, but I like that.
And then, because me being the annoying person that I am, I would actually tie this with Alien 3.
Okay. Yes, the director's cut, the assembly cut, as they call it. Yeah.
I really like Alien 3. I'll defend Alien 3.
Oh, I will. Yep.
And then, again, it's such a hard choice, gun against me head kind of situation, which is the best Alien or Aliens. Depends on my mood. But I think Aliens is the slightly stronger one out of the two. It is because it has elements from Alien, tension, little bits and bobs. The Aliens director's cut, that is. Because if you were going standard versions, I would go Alien, then is the best.
Aliens.
Then Aliens. If you're going director's cut, Aliens, then Alien. It's just there's elements with inside, because I absolutely love the scene with Newt and her brother.
Yeah.
And in that huge, massive vehicle, and the father's brought back to that vehicle, facehugger's attached to him. I love that scene. And you question, when I first saw that scene, I questioned, why the hell was this not in the film? Because it's such a pivotal, important scene.
Run in time, innit? Yep.
The scene when Ripley discovers the place where Newt has been hiding and living. Yeah. That is such a tender but brilliantly beautiful, well-executed scene. It's a fantastic scene. But then you've got the playful nature between the meathead space marines.
Yeah. Hicks and Weaver have Hicks and Ripley have some nice tender scenes.
Yeah, but they don't act like complete jarheads in a way, and so there is a reason why they're there, and that's the good thing about Aliens. There's a reason why each one of those characters is there. They're there for a purpose. There isn't one who's completely superfluous that we could just easily get rid of them very easily. That you feel for when each one of them does actually go. And even in the director's cut, the scene where you've got the turret down the hallway, that's such a genius scene. Again, it's just, why the hell was this not in the original film? There's just things like that. So if you go in director's cut, it's Aliens and Alien. If you go in standard, it's Alien first, then Aliens.
I remember when I started seeing the trailer for the Alien Special Edition, and this was back in the time when director's cuts weren't really a huge thing. There'd be the odd one now and again. And it was like, there's more aliens. And watching the director's cut for the first time, you were like, oh my God, this footage from 1986 that I've never seen before. And here I am in the early 90s watching it for the first time. And again, it's like, why have I never seen this before? Why was this not in it? And this was obviously back in the day when 2.5-hour films really weren't a thing unless you were an Oscar bait type movie. And then we started hearing rumors about, there was an Abyss director's cut. I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to see that. And we got that one. You're like, why the hell wasn't that footage in the original movie either? So Cameron's definitely one of the geniuses when it comes to director's cuts. I don't really want to watch longer versions of Avatar, so you can,
No, thank you.
They do exist. I've seen one of those, but
There was a documentary that was released, I think it was last month, and you can only buy it on Blu-ray and DVD, but you can only buy it off the website as well. And it's a 5-hour, just over 5.5-hour documentary in regards to the making of Aliens.
Yeah, Aliens Expanded, isn't it? It's called.
Yeah. You get all the everybody involved in it, and you hear all the turmoil and the fact that how Cameron got on with his crew, and the fact that he didn't get on with his crew, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like that Never Sleep Again documentary about Nightmare on Elm Street. It's on for like over 4 hours. I really want that DVD. I haven't bought a DVD or Blu-ray in absolutely forever, and I want a copy of it.
That will come out. I will get it, so I'll make sure you get access to that. But yeah, because they're the guys that did like In Search of Darkness and In Search of Horror and all that sort of stuff. Yes. So they do. I mean, looking at the price of the Blu-ray, I'm like, that's way out of my budget. It's like silly prices, but they do end up putting it somewhere where it can be got. So be patient.
Yeah, right. I really do want to watch it, because I will definitely sit down and watch the full 5 hours, because I did that with Never Sleep Again, I watched the entirety in one go. I didn't chop it up into little pieces.
I did the same with the Camp Crystal one, the Friday 13th. That was like stupidly long, and the Hellraiser one, which was, I don't know how many hours that was, but that was a long documentary as well. So.
I even did it when Jake West sent us the DVDs with the band films. I know there were just a lot of them was just trailers, but I even just sat down and watched the entirety in just one go.
Yeah.
That if it's something that I'm passionate about, because the Alien franchise, I will, no matter what, I will go to see it. I don't watch TV programs, but Alien Earth, when that's on, I am guaranteed to watch it. 100% going to watch it. Just because I love the Alien franchise. I love it. Covenant, there is a couple of bits and bobs in it, which it's fine, but yeah, I would still watch a film even of that quality. I'll still go to the cinema to see it. And I'm hoping that they give Fede Alvarez another chance to do one of the Alien film, because he's done such a fantastic job with this. So
he's crafted, from what I've heard, he's crafted atmosphere wonderfully. So not necessarily when things are going on, but when there's nothing going on, the audience, from what I've seen, a few people have been like, you're still on the edge of your seat, even though nothing's actually happening for these few minutes or seconds or whatever. The atmosphere comes off the screen into the auditorium.
Because he can do that. You look at his Evil Dead remake. It's a good remake. It's a dumb remake, because the characters in it are even more dumber than the ones in Evil Dead 2. But it's still a really good remake because he got what the spirit of Evil Dead was.
Yeah.
He sort of like looked at the playful nature of Evil Dead 2 and he just went, well, modern day gore and what we can do, we can take elements from Evil Dead, the camera shots and the tree rape scene. We can do all of that. We can take elements from Evil Dead 2 with somebody getting their arm chopped off, but in this case here, let's use a turkey cutter and saw the arm off, and the blood and the giggling laughter of the possessed girl in the basement and all that kind of stuff. So he gets that, and the gore is just so nasty and scrunchy and horrible and just geniusly well executed. And Don't Breathe, it's such a tension-filled film, despite the fact that it's got a few missteps, turkey baster, in the film itself. So he's able to actually do that. And like I said, despite the fact that I've got some misgivings with Alien Romulus, if I was asked to give it a score out of 10, I would give it a 7 out of 10. But that's still quite high for me, that. I still enjoyed it. So much so that I actually booked an early finishing at work on Friday, so I could go and see it, because I was originally supposed to finish at 6. I got to finish just before 4:20, and I walked from my walked straight to the cinema, booked the ticket for the 5 o'clock showing. So I live around about a half an hour walk, but that's if you walk quite fast.
Yeah.
From mine to the town centre where the cinema actually is housed. I got into the cinema. I was an absolute ball of dripping sweat.
Yeah.
But I still got in before the film started, before the adverts and trailers came up, because I would not have gone to see it if I couldn't have made it even for the adverts, because I hate coming in when the adverts has actually started. I've got to be sat in my seat. That's how eager I wanted to see that film, because I knew I couldn't get the deer off, but I wanted to see it as soon as I was able to, rather than the way I was going to do it. And I was going to go to deer at 10:10 in the morning.
Yeah.
That was my original idea. But yeah, I'm glad I did actually get to see it last night.
Well, fingers crossed it makes a bucket of money. Obviously, we won't know. But I really, really want to watch. I'm going to try and get to see it at some point this week or whatever, if I'm up to it, or we go out, because we don't have a cinema really near us, which is a pain in the neck. But because the Alien franchise is a weird one. It's had a few missteps over the years. It's not like a solid, great franchise. Obviously, the Alien versus Predator films are a bit, you can take them out or you can keep them in. It's I will always go to bat for Alien 3. I love Alien 3. I think Same. Aliens, Alien 3, brilliant. If that was a trilogy, it would be a solid trilogy for me. Alien 3 theatrical or assembly cut. I do prefer the assembly cut, but I saw the theatrical version when it opened back in the 92, I think it was. Loved it. Came out thinking, yeah, it's great. But then people decided to start bashing it because it wasn't the same as Aliens, which I quite liked it because it was different to Aliens. And with the Alien movies, other than Prometheus and Covenant, they're kind of all different, which I quite like that. They'll fit within the same world, but they're all made by pretty much different people. They all have their own little unique style or spin to it, and I quite like that.
Yeah. Alien Resurrection was the first Alien film I saw in the cinema, because I wasn't old enough to see Alien 3 in the cinema, despite the fact that I was still not old enough to see Alien Resurrection in the cinema, technically.
You were old enough to watch Elm Street when you were like 2. So,
yeah, but I watched that on video. And so, Alien Resurrection was the first Alien film I saw in the cinema. Maybe that's the reason why I like it more than some other people, because the fact that it was, because I remember before going to see it, I actually watched Aliens, and Alien 3 in eager anticipation of actually going to see Alien Resurrection. And I walked out of Alien Resurrection with, I thought that was a good film. I like that. It's got its playful nature to it. Winona Ryder she was stoic, but she showed that there was little elements of emotion into it. I felt like the character of Ripley felt more like a droid than Winona Ryder's character. Just Ron Perlman, he's sort of like aggressive, sort of like machismo kind of character. I thought he was actually really good in it. Just the scene when they're getting chased by the alien, when it dragged us down into the water, and so there was a little bit of tension in regards to that, because you're thinking, well, why Winona Ryder's character not helping them with this? And then eventually at the end, she does. The basketball scene as well, where they're playfully playing around in regards to it. And
you had that scene when the alien was about to be sucked out the little hole in the window, and it was heartbreaking. I'm like, oh, I actually felt sympathy for the alien, because it does this one glance at Sigourney going, why are you allowing this? I'm gonna die. And it was like, oh, felt sympathy for an alien. Makes no sense.
The baby, as it's known as, which is a very interesting thing to call it. So
it is.
Yeah, when I saw that in the cinema, I was just, I actually really liked it. So again, I will defend it. And then Alien 3. When I went to visit a friend down in London, we actually watched Alien 3, and he was one of the first people who I spoke to where he actually really liked the film. But pretty much everybody else who I've spoken to prior to him didn't like Alien 3, and I'm thinking,
I love Alien 3.
Have you seen the same film as me? Because I know that they do a few little things, like at the start of the film, where we discover what actually has happened to the rest of the crew after Aliens. Is good. Oh, come on, that's a slight cop out. But the way the film plays through the fragile nature of Ripley in Alien 3, the fact that she feels more as a prisoner, I know, no pun intended, because she's on a prison, but she feels more of a prisoner in the area where she is, because she's not as strong as she was in Aliens. Like she was this sort of like recluse kind of character in the first one, the kind of character you didn't think that the movie itself was centered around her, that she was the main protagonist of it, to building up so much, again, that machismo word, the sort of like aggressive nature that she had in Aliens, the ability to be able to actually protect Newt, for example, after you obviously seen the director's cut and she's at the hologram area and discovered what happened to her daughter, treating Newt as her daughter, and the protective nature that she wanted to do, very much similar to the alien queen wanting to protect her own xenomorphs. And she had this aggressive kind of, I'll do whatever it takes to protect Newt. And then in Alien 3, for that to be completely ripped away from her. Like all of that is ripped away from her. She's in an environment that she's never been in before. She's not used to this environment. She's locked in with people who she would never even say hello to or speak one single word to. She doesn't feel safe. Even the doctor, she can sense that there's a lecherous kind of vile nature behind him. He's here for a reason. Why is he here? And so there's nobody there to sort of like protect her or be with her. I thought that was a good way to treat her character. And then obviously in Alien Resurrection, it was sort of like a complete hit the restart button.
Yeah.
Like, there's a human here, but she sort of like has this thing, well, am I very similar to Bishop? Am I very similar to the kind of droids that I had a hatred to in the first film, and then partial hatred to in the second one, but came around with Bishop?
Yeah.
Is that me now? And then moving into films like Alien Romulus, where the relationship between the two characters of Rain and Andy, a human who heavily relies on the droid character, she treats him like a brother, calls him a brother through the entirety of the film, because we find something out about a backstory as to the reason why she calls him brother. And so it's to that as well. And so the female characters have always been the main elements with the Alien films, but they've been in so many different styles. We're never going to show what kind of ones we're going to get. But that's what makes the first four and Romulus sort of like unique in that.
Yeah.
Because the Ripley character is in every different state, and then we sort of like get that follow on with Romulus.
So it's like they're all different, but they all fit in the same universe. It's not like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. So it's But yeah, I think when Fincher had done 7, I'd found out his postal address, not his house address, but his agent. I wrote to, this is back in the day when I would handwrite and just go, oh, I'm just going to write to David Fincher. I went through a phase like that, and I wrote to him going, 7 was amazing, blah 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 blah. Really glad that this has happened to you, especially after the way you were treated with Alien 3. It's a middle finger up to the film studios who were like, oh, we don't want this Fincher guy. Really sort of, glad this has happened because you were treated like crap back in the early 90s. And he wrote back. I still to this day have this lovely little note from Fincher saying, thank you very much for your kind words. So I will always go to bat for Fincher because I like what he does. And yeah, Alien 3, I'm a huge fan of. I get why they killed off Newt and Hicks. And I think Fincher explained, he's like, do you really want a young girl running around on a prison planet? Could you imagine what would happen to her? And that's partly the reason why he thought, right, well, we need to get rid of those characters. But a lot of people are genuinely mad because they're like, how dare you kill these 2 fictional characters? And they're kind of angry against Alien 3. But I'm a big fan.
I wonder if he always had the idea of setting Alien 3 on a prison planet.
I think the making of Alien 3, they could do a 5-hour documentary on that. This was one of these films where he was brought on board. He was like, however many directors in, the sets were already being built before he even showed up and got the job because he was in his 20s. So the studios figured, we'll get this guy in, we can push him around a bit. And if you know Fincher, it doesn't really work, but he was still at the beginning of his movie career. So I don't know whether it was, I don't know where the prison planet idea came from. It certainly didn't come from Fincher. It just came because at one point, I think it was Vincent Ward who was doing it was set on a wooden planet, like a big Noah's Ark type thing floating in space. And there was going to be monks. All these monks were on board, which is when you watch Alien 3, you can kind of see some of the monk still there. So it's just evolved so much. The making of Alien 3 is fascinating and probably one of the best and worst examples of studios interfering in the making of a movie and trying to make it before they should go, right, now we've got everything in place, let's start making it. No, we need to get it out. We don't need a director, we don't need sets, build this, build that. So yeah, looking into the making of it's quite interesting, and how a film managed to come out of that chaos. More pats on the back for David Fincher for surviving that.
I wonder if Fincher, if he was actually given the chance from the start, how he would have actually created his Alien film. What he would have actually done.
Yeah, I'd like to have known. I mean, the assembly cut isn't an official director's cut because he doesn't really talk about Alien 3. He's like, nope, I don't want to know. It scarred him quite a bit. He's not interested, which was why when he came back with 7, and he did well, and it was successful, and it's great, and it made loads of money. It was like, well done. He did carve a really good career out for himself. But it would be interesting to see what his vision would have been if he was on board from the very beginning of that.
It was like the Alan Smithy kind of situation where you just disown your film itself and want the credit to be changed to the Alan Smithy kind of name or something like that.
And they touch upon a lot of it on the Blu-rays because there's commentaries on the assembly cut and the theatrical cut, and it's all with the cast and crew. Sigourney's in there, Charles Dance is in there. I think Fincher might actually be in there, but I can't remember. And they do touch upon the chaos, and everybody supported Fincher, so it wasn't like everybody was against him. The studio were, but all the cast and crew just loved Fincher, and they really tried to support him at every way possible, which is quite nice. But
it's always the studio kind of thing, very similar to like Event Horizon.
Yeah.
Like that film, what would it have been if Paul W.S. Anderson was able to actually do his full vision of Event Horizon? Would we have gotten this really gnarly, nasty film that he was intended to? The film was an 18-rated film anyway, so you just think to yourself, now, if Anderson had the idea of Event Horizon, I think he would have easily been allowed to actually do his full idea.
Yeah.
He easily would have been able to release the film in the form he originally intended. So I'm wondering if David Fincher was given the option now of sort of like, oh, by the way, we want you to do an Alien film, but we're going to give you full rein. We're not going to get involved in it. We're not going to say, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this. What he would have actually done, would he have sort of like do it in the style of what he does his films in? Very sort of like typically slow burn kind of movies. The pace is it's methodical pacing. Would he have done it like that? Would he have potentially have done it very similar to what we had seen in the past in the Aliens kind of oeuvre? How would he have actually created? But they're just if questions and annoying ones where fans of the series would just think to ourselves, oh, it would have been so nice. And then annoyingly, you get awful Joss Whedon involved with this franchise,
you do.
Resurrection.
You do. But you watch the assembly cut of Alien 3 and then you watch the theatrical one. It's not just like extra footage you get. There's all re-edits and alternate aliens in it. And alternate footage which was shot in your neck of the woods up that part of the country, wasn't it? I remember them filming up there. So it's an interesting version to watch.
It's just a night and day kind of situation. It's not like adding an extra 7 minutes of footage.
Well, it's not like Aliens, is it? Aliens has got 17 minutes worth of extra footage throughout, but there's no alternate footage. It's just like you get extra bits threaded in. The assembly cut of Alien 3 is like, well, that's a different alien, and it's not born from a dog; it's born from a cow, and all this sort of stuff. So it's nice to have both versions available to watch.
It is
whichever one.
That's the other good thing about Aliens is those elements, those parts that was cut from it, they fit so perfectly with inside the film.
Yeah.
Like the way it was edited together for the director's cut, it's just so seamless. Like it doesn't feel like there is like the points where you just notice that, unless you would not, if you've seen the original version of Alien in Aliens, you know where these scenes actually fit in. But if it is that you watch it for the first time, you watch the director's cut, you just can't tell. There is no like that little bit, oh, that doesn't feel like it belongs there. It literally does feel like it belongs there.
Yeah. So overall, summing up the Alien franchise, you're a fan. You've said it already.
I've always been a big fan of the Alien franchise.
Same. I am looking forward to watching Romulus when I can, but fingers crossed it does make a ton of money. And Fede says, yes, I will do another one. I think I've seen a few people saying, I hope he does a sequel. So it's going down pretty well. Hopefully, money-wise, it'll make a fortune. Hopefully, the studio won't go, let's stick it on video on demand in 10 days or one of them stupid decisions that they do.
And then I'm just eager and interested to find out what Alien Earth is going to be like. Because that is the proper title. It is called Alien Earth. And there is a 15-second teaser of it online on YouTube, which you will see absolutely nothing
other than a title and maybe a year going 2025.
You see a xenomorph.
Right.
That's it. You see a xenomorph. One other quick thing about Romulus is there is a lot of practical effects in it. There is some CGI.
Yep.
Some of the CGI is it's just terrible. It's uncanny valley CGI.
Yep.
That's all I'll see. But there is some practical effects. If you watch there is a few little brief making of videos on YouTube in regards to it. Some of they actually have a remote control facehugger. We're just running around and
nice.
the full size remote control xenomorph. and it shows in a couple of them the movements and the balletic sort of like jumping around and stuff like that. And some of the practical effects are just outstanding in Romulus. I adore practical effects. That's how I love my films. And so there are some really good, really, really well created practical effect shots. And there is one scene in the film in regards to the soundscape, that when they go from the planet through the atmosphere to the Romulus ship itself, there is a part sort of like in between where the sound is just lightning, but it flashes between silence and lightning. So the strike of the lightning, but you've got the silence. Oh, I want to give that sound guy again a hug, because the person who did the score and the sound in that film it's chef's kiss. It's just outstanding.
Give them an Oscar. That might be a second best thing.
Definitely.
Give them an Oscar next year.
Yeah.
So that's good. But yeah,
it won't happen.
No, it probably won't happen, because it's, we usually find out that the films we really want to win often don't. So
exactly.
But yeah, no, I will happily rewatch Alien and Aliens on a yearly basis, and Alien 3. They are films that I find incredibly rewatchable. Romulus, do you think it is a rewatchable film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be. It definitely will be a rewatchable film.
Because I kind of miss that with a lot of films nowadays. You watch it once, you go, that was good, and then you probably never really need to rewatch it like ever again. So I miss the days of just having films on rotation. So.
Yeah, because when I read the Guardian review of it, I just think that the Guardian did not get the film.
They don't watch films, I don't think. I've seen Guardian people review films, and it's like, look up from your iPad, watch the screens that way.
The independent review of it was sort of like more closer. The reviewer of the independent was Clarice Lockery, which I think she is a decent reviewer. She's been on Kermode Mears' show as a stand-in every now and again. And I do like her. I do like Clarice Lockery as a reviewer. And I thought she did get some elements correct. And then I read the review of it from Empire magazine. And normally from a movie magazine, it's just throwaway fluff. But I felt like the guy who reviewed it for Empire got it spot on. Like his analysis of the film itself, I think he understood the film. He had some of the same kind of misgivings as I had, but I think his review was actually correct in regards to the film. So it's more in that 3-4 star camp rather than the Guardians 2-star.
Yeah. We'll stick with the Empire review then, or your reviews probably. Stick with that one.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, cool. What are you up to for the rest of the evening then? It's 9:15, so you got a little bit of the evening left.
Nothing. I'm off work tomorrow, so football tomorrow, and then food, and then back at work very early. Got to be up early on Monday morning, 4:30 in the morning.
Ouch. What time's that for the start? 6?
8 o'clock.
Okay, that's an early morning.
I always get up at 4:30 and 8 o'clock start.
So what time will you go to sleep tomorrow night then to get up at 4:30?
10 o'clock.
Wow. And then do a full day's work.
Yes. Staring at the screen.
Ouch. Yeah. Right. Well, you take care, Stu. Thank you for
you too.
The alien chat and obviously educating us on Borderlands. I'm sure Neil will be very happy to listen to your Borderlands stuff. He'll reach out to you with his thoughts.
Literally Borderlands.
Yeah. I've not seen that actually in headlines. That's a pun they could have done with.
Yep.
But yeah, you enjoy your evening, and
you too.
And I will chat to you later.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.